Hello, good evening. It's yes, Jim's Monday Malt Samples back once more for something different. Sorry, I caught myself a bit unawares there. I was busy talking. I was busy talking to my guest, and it all just caught myself a little, as I say, unawares. I hope you can all hear me all right. I think everything should be all right. Just dive into the chat here briefly first before I bring my guest on. Hell's Wed was in looking to see if there was anybody about, but nobody there as usual. Lee J. Brown, good to see you, mate. I have one of your samples on the go tonight. We will get to that in a minute. Neil Laverty, good to see you. Greg's Whiskey Guy. Greg, I was in the background watching your video about an hour ago. I watched it all. I was in the background, but I just had it on. Didn't get involved, but sorry. Multi-mission, speaking some sort of language. Frank Peathead, good to see you, buddy. Let's see. Billy Saunders, I was chatting to Billy earlier. Good to see you, Billy. Alan Ward, Richard Agnew, Drams and Draws, Tony, good to see you, buddy. Donner Pass, Tim. And we will try and keep an eye on the chat so as we can keep everybody involved. So, yes, tonight's guest and I are going to discuss whiskey pricing. This was something, as I say, Greg put out a video just about an hour ago on the same subject, and it was very concise. It was breaking it down. I'm not sure whether my guest and I will be so concise, but we'll try. It's just a sort of general chat as usual. Have a thought it through? Probably not. So we'll just move on and invite in. Most of you know him, Whisky Whims, Stuart. Stuart,
hello,
everybody.
Not bad. Yourself? How's it going?
Very well, mate. Very well. Well, Stuart and I, everybody knows how these things work. That Stuart and I were chatting prior to going live, and we were just discussing some things in whiskey.
Yeah.
And some things not even.
Just speaking regular crap like usual.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, there's a few people saying hello. Can you see the chat all right, Stuart?
Yes. Yeah, I can see Richard saying hi. I can see Lee J saying hi, Billy saying hi everyone, and hi everyone else in the chat.
There you are. So good stuff. Anyway, you're keeping well, you were telling me.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit like you at the moment as well. Just a little bit tired, but I'm sure the whiskey and the beer will wake me up.
and then go the other direction, unfortunately. Yes. So yes, as Richard and you says, looks like there's a lot of love in Scotland. I noticed that earlier, meant to mention to you there, Stuart, but
yeah, my beautiful, amazing girlfriend who's actually on the couch and able to hear me, and has not told me to say this, but she put up the love balloons and the Valentine's Day love heart lights for me coming down on Sunday. I think it was Sunday,
very
wasn't it?
Nice. Very nice. I thought it would have been you doing it for her, but no.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. Everybody thought it was me, but I was in bed.
Well, good place to be. Who were you there with? No.
Yeah.
Anyway, Whiskey Pilgrim, Fredericks, and Jeff Whiskey. Jeff, good to see you. So, yes, as I said, we're going to chat about whiskey pricing just for shits and giggles. Meanwhile, just to warm up the palate, well, actually, I had a couple of goes. Graham Horner had given me a sample one time of his Poor Man's Longmorn 16, which he had seen the guys in the Whiskey Tribe making. And I must say, it was actually, having never had Longmorn 16 and probably never will have, it was still a rather nice whiskey. But I just poured myself. Have you had the Longmorn?
Yeah, I believe I've had the 16. It's it's a solid whiskey. I think it's a core range whiskey at the moment. I'm sure it's a core range whiskey, and yeah, it's a solid dram like every core range whiskey should be. I should get a bottle of it, but
I think they were just the last time I checked, it was just rocketing up in prices, and it was just silly, and yet again, let's not mention too much about that, and save that for getting on about whiskey chat. As I say, I'm having a wee Edgewater non-chill filtered 10-year-old at the minute just to warm me up.
So, it's a distillery that I've not had too much of. I've had some of samples here and there. I never had a bottle. Always kind of wanted a bottle because what they do and what they represent seems to be a good thing. But there you go. I definitely need to get more Edgewater or Balkan in my
Have
selection.
you had that signatory unchill filtered one?
No, I have not.
I'll send you over a sample of it, mate.
Oh,
It's class. Like, I've still, because sorry, I meant to do this off air, but while I remember, I'll do it on air because I've still got to send you a sample of the Ben Renus
yes.
11, the Nebraran one. And have you had the new Ad American yet?
No,
Uh,
I don't think so. No,
I'll send you something like that as well. Sorry, I meant to do that off air and forgot.
that's fine.
So I'll tell you all that now. Anyway, yes, whiskey pricing. You and I were actually having a bit of a chat about this before we went on, and it's something that we don't. Well, I suppose there has been quite a bit of chat about it recently because, as you and I said, like last week's frenzy over the Springbank Kilkerran thing, it was messy. Really, I think
Yeah,
was the best way to describe it. Did you go for anything yourself? Did you chase anything or?
yeah. I think I've managed to get a Kilkerran and the long roll. The prices of them, Kilkerran, great price. I ended up paying a little bit more just because of where I went. Uh, Probably won't be going back very high. I
Mhm.
don't know because they seem to price up everything really high. But yeah, the long roll I got from Aberdeen Whisky Shop, I think, and yeah, their pricing's great. And like I said, the pricing of the long roll and the Kilkerran, especially the Kilkerran, even though it's 8-year-old, still cash strength.
Mhm.
It's a great price.
No, as I say, I agree with you totally because sorry, Phil was just saying there about getting the
Yeah,
subtitles on. I don't think anybody's going to have an issue there, but because I'll tell you what got me thinking too about this was there was a and I don't mention an awful lot. I try not to mention Irish whiskey if I can help it because I still prefer them Scotch. But it was whenever the Bushmills were released uh, late last year, the Causeway collection, and they released the 19 no 2008 cask strength. I have it looking. I'm trying to see what it is, but here behind me,
yeah,
and but to me, they actually charged the very because they only released 1,454 balls or something like that there,
right,
and it was sold for £91 a bottle, which I actually thought was a bloody good price.
yeah,
But then the whiskey friend Alan, I was chatting to him soon after that, and as he suggested, yeah, but take a look at Kilkerran because they just released the 16 at that point
yeah,
and what they were charging for it. And I had to agree. It didn't stop me buying the Bushmills, but I think when we look at these smaller, and as Greg said in his video earlier on, what you would almost consider craft distilleries,
yeah,
like Kilkerran and Springbank and all, with very small productions, when they can keep their prices down, it begs the question then why they can't all, if you know what I mean.
yeah. I wonder with Springbank and specifically if maybe because they don't do a lot of marketing gimmicks, like you don't really see. Yeah, they put posts out and that, but you don't really see a lot of kind of big fancy show boxes, big fancy events. I know they do the Malt festival, but they don't really seem
Mhm.
to do anything like even when you go to brand events, it's nothing too in your face compared to let's just say Glenfiddich, Glenmorangie, or even White Mackay. Like their stalls seem to always be a lot more exquisite, and maybe that's where their money's spent. I don't
Mhm.
know. It just seems, and obviously you have to pay for people to do marketing and stuff. So I'm not sure if that adds up to the cost.
Because of sort of one of the reasons why, sorry, just when I see them, Daniel Vermaas is in, Luna R and James Morgan. Hello, guys. Just don't want to miss you out. It's a lot of these new distilleries. This is where do these? I sort of wonder where these guys get their prices. So I'm asking you this for the simple fact that as a Daft Mill fan, which I know you are, now we're like, yep, there's the one. Now we're looking at prime whiskies and getting them. When you think of, and I'll not single out Daft Mill because you sent me a sample of it and it was outstanding stuff. But we were talking about the Ardnamurchan earlier on. We were talking about some of the other ones that were released. The Nebrian, or no, not
Yep.
Nebrian, McNean.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
and really, the way I thought about it was if these were established distilleries, been there for 15, 20 years or more, and
Yep.
released one of these as a non-age statement young whiskey,
Yeah.
you wouldn't think about paying the prices that they're asking for them as new distilleries. I think.
So do you think the Ardnamurchan and the Nuclean are maybe too highly priced, or?
You see, this is the thing. They're not shockingly highly priced. I don't think that, but it's more just the fact that when you compare them to established distilleries, that
Yeah.
and then it's sort of that balance sort of offsets a wee bit, and you think to yourself, and yet again, I'm going to say it, and I don't apologize for it. The Scots, to me, don't have the arm in too much. They get it right. And I
Yeah.
know that you don't maybe look at it the same as I do, but these young Irish whiskey distillers are really, really putting the arm in for have a lot of the time it's whiskey that isn't even theirs, it's sourced
Yeah.
and aged, you know, and it's just it's things like that I can't understand. I can't get my head around.
I think um I think really see with Ardnamurchan and Nuclean and even like King's Barnes, like you're obviously paying a certain price for them, and it is a little bit steep for new whiskey. Maybe not really nothing really known about it. But then with the likes of Ardnamurchan and King's Barnes, I think they're doing Dream to Dram. They are good whiskies.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously these new distilleries have a lot of overheads and stuff. Whiskey production is expensive, hell expensive. But when they create a good product, then they lay the foundations for being able to maybe bring cheaper products out or better products, aged products. But in the case of Nuclean, unfortunately, the organic that I had wasn't that great, and therefore I don't really have a reason to go back to them. But I do have
Mm-hmm.
more reason to go back to Kingsbarn and Ardnamurchan.
Yeah.
But I think their prices weren't too bad, to be fair. Considering non-age statements from other bigger distilleries, you look at that Ardbeg committee release. Yeah, it's a committee release, but that came out in what was it, £155 for a non-age statement that no one knows anything about, other than that it's done in ex-rye casks. I mean, nah.
I think Ardbeg are a prime example of a distillery that just ride on their name.
That's
You
it.
know, that and they ride on not that I'm complaining. I love it. I love, as in, I was just about to say, they ride on the back of the 10-year-old.
Yeah,
And granted, great whiskey, but this is why then I was going to ask the question, you know, distilleries that, yet again, McNean, Ardnamurchan, King's Barnes, they're taking a risk with their
yeah,
pricing very early on because people are buying this on the build up.
yeah.
Because there's nothing to base it on, really.
That's and it goes back to like what we've been saying for years, months now, that about the bubble and that. I mean, they're bringing out say Ardnamurchan and Nuclean when the first one came out, £45 a bottle it was, selling on auction that month for £340.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. Like, I can't wrap my head around it. The Ardnamurchan, yeah, it's the first release. It's just came out and they're sold out. Like, they just sell out instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where this influx of passion's coming from. If just people want to try it or what the script is, but it seems like for them to sell it and then to get flipped, something's just going to give way.
Because yet again, as I said about that skirmish last week over the Springbank, I'm not. We all seem to want to have a wee go it just feels messy sometimes. It just feels like every new release from
It's
these,
selling out.
yeah, and they're just getting messier and messier with people trying. And we all, as I say, we all want to have a go, but it's just it's difficult, isn't it? Sorry, I seen a comment there from Phil, Causeway
Yep.
Coast, and Phil and I actually got into a conversation about this recently, about how, it seems to be driven by the American market. Now, this is just Irish whiskies that well, it's not just Irish whiskies, but I mean, he's particularly talking about Irish whiskies there. And I have to agree, him and I, as I say, had a good conversation about this, and I have to agree that the American market does seem to want to drive these prices up, because money doesn't seem to have the same. Yet again, you're looking at a larger group of people over a larger area,
Yep.
smaller releases, more money trying to get pumped in, and it just seems to make it more and more difficult for those of us who are even within reaching distance of these whiskies to actually get hold of.
It is crazy. I don't know. I've seen a lot. I've been watching a lot of TV recently, obviously with lockdown and that, and I've seen a lot of advertisement. Obviously, not necessarily in your face advertisement, but just Bushmills getting drunk on American TV shows. It's
Mm-hmm.
everywhere, and then you see at the end, paid promotion by Bushmills, paid promotion by Bushmills. So this company's obviously paying to promote their whiskey in these big TV series and that, and it's just, well, there's some of the price. Like, you're obviously having to pay for that
Yeah.
in some way. Sorry, I just seen a comment from Neil Laverty asking, has Stuart found his Blair Athol getting dearer? Yes. I think everything's getting dearer, and Blair Athol, with some independent bottlers, there are exceptions, but in general, it just seems to be going up and up.
Yeah, and it is. There's a couple of mentions there of the fear of missing out. And I remember you actually doing a great live chat about FOMO, and definitely there is that. Last week, yeah, again, I'll bring it up, was a prime example that I hadn't chased anything. I wasn't,
Yeah,
because I have an idea what I want to buy next, no matter what comes out. It was a case of, no, not going to do it. Stay my ground. And then Tony from Drams and Draws here contacted me to ask me, did you get anything? Did you buy anything? And I said no, wasn't interested. And he says, it looks like as if I've managed to pick up 2 bottles of the Kilkerran 8 by accident. And I went, what's the maturation?
yeah,
Oloroso. And he says, I said, you sell him one? And he was. So, so it's a case of, all right, I'll buy it off you. And I just,
yeah,
as much as I didn't think I wanted one, as soon as he told me it was, I hadn't even looked. This was what was sort of trying to keep me away from it. I hadn't
yeah.
Googled, I hadn't chased them. And as soon as he told me about what they were Oloroso matured, it was like, right, gotta have it.
I mean, I might be completely wrong, but I am sure distilleries, even like Springbank, will say to shops, you can release this on this day, and say to other shops, you can release this on this day. So one day, say the Friday, I know generally they all released on the Friday, but some shops still haven't released them, whether they've not got the product or whether they're not allowed to sell the product. But it seems like on the Friday, say, you get all your long rows and your Kilkerrans on the market, and then a couple of days, like, everybody's sold out, everybody's sold out, everybody's wanting one, and then the next shop releases it, and
Yeah.
then they just sell straight away because everywhere else is sold out. And it's, I don't know, maybe that is what they do, but it just seems very a sure way to get your stuff sold.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, my first question was, I said to the missus, why do they not release these on payday? Release them on the last Friday of the month.
Yeah,
Because I says, they always bloody do this in the middle of the month, whatever I've spent my whiskey
yeah,
budget for.
yeah,
Sorry, before I go much further, I'm on to the samples. This is actually a Glendronach, the Allardice, and I've just Lee J. Brown sent me this, and I've just never had it. So I thought tonight was as good a night as any. And what was I going to say? I haven't actually had. I've had I have the 8-year-old Highland, and I think I've had the 12-year-old, but I've never really had that much Glendronach. And this, on first go, Lee J is lovely.
Yeah, I had a bottle of the 2019 release. I think that had like 23-year-old whiskey in it or something, but it was just splendid. But yeah, I ended up buying another bottle because it is a really good dram,
Mm.
and for the price at the time.
Yet again, it's incredible what they can do with, there's this yet again is a prime example of a whiskey that isn't ridiculously expensive for 18 years old, and with the quality that it comes at.
When I picked that first up, I paid £80 for it, which was only a couple of years ago, and I think now it's selling maybe 90, 100, which still isn't too bad. When it's hard because you look at that and then like I'm going to pour a sample of this now anyway, a dram of this. But you look at that 18-year-old and this, I think, 12, maybe no, it's 11-year-old, if that, maybe 10-year-old, and that's £100. Like,
Yeah,
it's almost it's hard to compare two whiskies. It's hard to do a pricing thing, isn't it? It's hard to
where
justify it.
100%, mate, and this is where this question keeps blattering around inside my head, for the simple fact that, I mean, you can pick up a Glencadam 21-year-old for under £100, and it's just, I just think to myself, yet again, if they can put this out for under £100, how are the other ones justifying the? I mean, one of the whiskies that I sort of said to myself, I'm going to buy, and this is why I didn't chase any of the Springbank stuff last week, was a Springbank. I was just sort of holding off at the end of the month, and I want to pick up. I know one of the locals here still had a couple of bottles of the 9-year-old local barley, the Spring-year-old local barley, and it was a case of I'll pick one up, I'll pay the £100 for it, and it's just you're not taking a chance, but at the same time, it's a lot of dough for a 9-year-old whiskey, isn't
Yeah,
it? But
I think when it's a distillery that kind of reliable, got the integrity. You've had most things you've had from there are good. Like even Springbank, I think there's one Springbank I can recall that I didn't enjoy. But then you look at that and you say, right, that might be a little bit overpriced, but it'll probably be a good whiskey knowing them. And I think that's the same with Daft Mill. It is the quality. Is the price worth it? And I think most of the time it probably will be. I honestly can't say I've had a Daft Mill where I've been like, no, that's crap. And for that to happen with like a whiskey, if I bring back to Ardbeg again, even though I don't want to be hating on Ardbeg, but I've had plenty of Ardbegs where I've been like, no, that's not that great. Whereas others have been fine. So I think it's consistency you're looking for as well. But then I suppose a distillery can't appeal every time, can it? It's so hard.
I mean, yet again, that must have been a hell of a risk you took with Daft Mill at the start.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously you've got resources out there saying like Malt, people like that, people like on YouTube that you trust, doing reviews, people on blogs and stuff, and that's where it can get a bit messy with Instagram. People posting tasting notes or something, reviews without actually giving an opinion, saying whether they enjoyed it or whether it's good or not, and it kind of makes everything just seem good. But I think we definitely need to say whether something's good or bad, and give credit where it's due, really. But with Daft Mill, yeah, it was a bit of a leap initially, but I'm just glad I found it because I actually love it.
Well, you've been one of the biggest champions of it, as far as I can see, for Daft Mill. And yes, I did see your video of you strutting around the day in the suit. But but hey, and as I say, you sent me a sample of it. Very much appreciate it. Very hard to gauge something, as you know, based on a sample.
Yeah.
Good quality stuff, but you know yourself that you sort of have to spend a bit of time with these bottlings, and obviously nobody else can get Daft Mill because you've bought it all. But
through the back door.
But no, as I say, I just think it's great that these are the distilleries of the future.
Well, that's it. Like when I went and seen Francis at the distillery and went round with him, I mean, you can see his passion for it. really, he just wanted to do it for himself almost. Like, obviously making money out of it, and everything's money driven, but
Mhm.
the way his passion for it, he done pretty much everything himself with his family and that, and you can see that he wants to make a whiskey to drink, and that you've got to admire that. And I mean, if the whiskey wasn't good, you would probably say it wasn't good. You wouldn't just go off the back of saying, "Oh, because he's trying really hard, because he's got a good drive behind him." But it is a good whiskey, and what he's doing obviously is working. It's the same as Springbank; they do everything in the house, and it's obviously working. They've got their whiskey's a testament to the distillery.
Yep, and as I said, I applaud them, and I'm sort of, when I talk about pricing, I am sort of having a pop at Irish whiskey
Yeah,
distilleries, and as I say, I know you don't really take an awful lot of time, but even there's some in the chat here that, and I think that they'll agree. It's these young distilleries and the prices that they're commanding for, as I say, sometimes not even their own whiskey stuff. And I just don't get it. I don't get it. You don't get, but
yeah.
as I said,
I can't understand pricing at times. I mean, the other week we had the Bunnahabhain 28-year-old from Weems Malt, £150. Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
VAT and the different casks and that, but from what I've heard and what Weems do in general, they are blenders. They know their stuff, and from what I've heard, it's amazing. So I'm definitely getting a bottle. Um, but then you've got Ardbeg, £750, and then someone's just said Glen Turret, 25-year-old, £1,000, and I got this Tobermory, 25-year-old from Whisky Broker. Yeah, it's an independent bottle, but this was only £80. £80 for a 25-year-old whiskey. I've
Yeah,
yet to try it. It might not be great, but £80. I mean, how can I just don't understand how there can be such a variation in pricing.
exactly, mate. And that was something. Well, that's something I'll get on to in a second. But sorry, Alan. It was just good to see Alan, the whiskey friend, in. Alan, I don't, mate. If Irish is too dear, don't buy it. And it's basically got to the point where I don't. And they, I think some of these distillers in Ireland are starting to realise that, not that they're charging, but Waterford was a prime example there, that they released everything at around the 79, the RRP, I think, was something like £79. And now you can pick it up for like 63. And this is the RRP seems to have just dropped on it. Diageo's Game of Thrones series was a prime example of it as well. I mean, they were charging in the 60s, 70s for those upon release, to the point where I was mad keen to get them in the build up to it. And then
Yeah,
whenever they released them at that price, I didn't buy any of them. I wouldn't even have touched them. I ended up buying the Lagavulin once all the prices had dropped on them, but I just wasn't going to jump at them. So that was the other thing I was going to get to then on the prices. Independent bottlers.
yeah,
Are we going to be in it? I think we're getting closer and closer to times where the independent bottlers are getting looked upon and by us, the buyers, the whiskey drinkers, in a higher and higher or better light, for the simple fact that they're just producing, they're putting out better stuff.
yeah.
You
I
know,
don't know. I think I've said it before, and I've kind of tried to summarise it. I think it's with independent bottlers like Cadenhead and that, and Whisky Broker. That's technically their bread and butter. They have to try and supply. I know all distilleries have to try and supply good whiskey, but evidently not really. I mean, big companies, they've got their
mhm,
core ranges, they can supply these whiskies, get them out to supermarkets. So independent bottlers, generally the whiskey has to be shit hot. Sorry,
mhm,
it has to be really good, and I think obviously that's why they've maybe got a little bit higher standard to other distilleries. It's the same with like the mass production of things like Dalmore, watering it down, colouring it, whereas like independent bottlers they don't have to.
yeah,
These bigger distilleries want to get as much money out as they can, so they spread it as thin as they can and try and sell as much as they can, and that's fine. That's the way a business usually runs. But in order for like us consumers to have a good time, we need to obviously look at independent bottlers. and thank them for their good pricing. I mean, there are independent bottlers that are higher priced, but
Well,
yeah,
you named them there. There's two. Just well, you named one. Dalmore, McCallum. You know, was another one. It's it's not even the pricing. It's what they're doing to their whiskies. It's the way they're. It's what they do for the price that they sell them at. And when you can take an independent bottling, and I'm going to use an example which Phil from Causeway Coast will not agree with me, I imagine. I gave him a sample. I never heard what he thought of it, but it was a Douglas Lang Old Particular Jura 12-year-old. This actually leads very well into my next series, by the way, which I'm going to do with independent bottling. But I've a bottle of it here, and I just thought it's something. Jura doesn't get a great name, as most of us know in here, but to me, this was actually a very good independent bottling of a 12-year-old Jura.
yeah,
No color added, no, absolutely nothing done to it, just putting a ball, and it's a bit of quality, and malt, and it's the same thing. It's Indy Bowmore versus official Bowmore, are another prime example.
yeah.
So you're getting more bang for your buck.
Well, that's it. I mean, I bought that. What was it? The 26. So I got the 26-year-old Ardbeg for Cadenhead, and yeah, it was pricey, but nowhere near what Ardbeg are charging themselves. And what less did I get of a whiskey? I got a less of a box. I definitely got more ABV, and I got more age.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't complain if it is terrible. Yeah, maybe I've wasted a lot of money, but then luckily for me, I've got some two like I don't want to sound like I thought it was snob here, but I've managed to get myself some. I've just dug myself a hole. I sound like a prick.
You'll be all right, lad.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like I try and I live within my means. I've got the money to spend on it, and I'm glad I've got that. But yeah, I just can't see how like Cadenhead, for example, can charge a price for more whiskey, and Ardbeg can charge such a higher price for less whiskey. It baffles me, and it's quite infuriating because I really do love Ardbeg distillery with all the sentiment that I have behind it, but it's just a bit sad.
No,
I'm sweating.
there's a wee hole open, trying to open it below you there, mate.
I always
So
dig holes in your live.
you're grand. There's a few people jumped in here, so I just want to say hello. Malt review. I take it that's Jason's in. Che Francis, Indy Egot, or Ingot, and David Owen. I think I missed you earlier, but I don't know. As I say, I just think, and funny, I did see a comment earlier on there, or somebody, I think it was Hell's Wed, said about independent bottlers. Somebody said it anyway, about independent bottlers can be a bit as hit and miss, or trial and error, or something like that, and I have to agree. But I think because there's so many of them out there now, and
Yeah,
because that reputations are starting to be built, and not and reviews are starting to come out now. The problem with reviewing, obviously, in independent bottling is, yet again, it's another one of these things that they're generally fairly limited. So even to get, you could be talking about a single cask, or couple of casks or something like that there, but just to actually single it down and say, right, well, we want to review this one. How many people are going to be following along with the bottle? If you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah. I think there was some stuff in the chat said about like stocks and that, and yeah, it is kind of trial and error, and trying to try before you buy. But I mean, if you find a good indie bottling that you've had a few good ones from, then you might as well pursue them. Like Cadenhead, for example, I know there's like basically Springbank, Janie Mitchell, but even Whiskey Broker, for me, they're cheap. Phil mentioned that he got a bad Speyside. I think it was 24-year-old. He paid 70 odd pound, but even that, it's worth the punt. I mean, you might get a bad Speyside for that price and that age, but then you might get one of the best of your life. So there are independent bottlers that I'll tend to buy, and some that I'll tend to stay away for. But it is trial and error. I think that's the same with all things whiskey, really.
100%, yeah, 100%. But as I said, to me, the Irish have it all wrong at the minute. Scots aren't doing too badly. I don't think. I really don't think. You know, they're especially those ones that everybody's running chasing after last week. The only reason, well, it's two reasons we're all running chasing after the Campbelltown stuff. One, you're almost guaranteed that it's going to be good, and two, their prices ain't bad. You know, anything in and around that 50, 60, 70 pounds for what you're getting there is not bad value, I think.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, going back to the Kilkerran, like the 8-year-old, the age statement, 8, cash strength, Oloroso. Actually, it's a great price. What, I thought, £48 RRP or something, 40, £50. I mean, you really can't grumble at that at all. But it's it's hard.
Totally agree. So, anybody in the chat? Well, I was going to say anybody in the chat anything to say, but I think there's been an awful lot said here, and I'm probably missing it as usual. Tell me, Stuart, you're exactly the same. That it's very, very hard to keep up with chat while you're.
Yeah, it can be. You seem to have a lot more people coming into your chat. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah.
No.
Yeah, no, it can be hard to keep up.
Just a few other come in. Drew from Arizona is in. Good to see you, buddy. Alan, the whiskey friend, is saying the new Kilkerran 8 is disappointing compared to the old ones. Now, I only ever had a sample of the old Oloroso. I have it was the bourbon cask matured one that I had. So it'll be interesting to see what this was like. And as I said, because I've never really had, or only ever had a sample of it. What I will say, without actually going into a full review, which I will do at some point, I was a little disappointed with the 16, and but just me.
The Kilkerran 8 also didn't get a bottle of the old one. I had 2 samples of it, and I've got a bottle of this one. Want to try it? I think it's a fine price to pay. But I think I actually prefer the bourbons anyway over the Oloroso. But that's just me.
Well, generally, actually, I prefer my favorite. I would say my favorite maturation is lightly peated in sherry cask. So,
right,
you know, that was right up my alley. If you excuse but the 16, as I say, just for me, didn't. I don't know. It hasn't really impressed me that much.
I've heard a lot of people saying after halfway down they've found it open up a lot more.
Right.
But there you go.
Maybe
I've seen a few reviews of that.
Well, that's maybe where because I haven't an awful lot out of it yet, and it's just I keep going. Anytime I do go back to it, it's a small dram, and I'm just going. Well, where's the excitement? It's one of those things that the Kilkerrans tend to you know, there's something that comes with depth and width, and
yeah,
you know, there's always something going on, and this one so far hasn't really done it. But that's just me.
Yeah, someone was asking what indies would you explore, and yeah, I think I said that the Whiskey Broker previously.
North Star, I think, are always worth it.
I've never actually tried North Star. I've always enjoyed Whiskey Broker. I'm just trying to look what I've got. Cadenhead. I mean, the single cask have some good whiskies, maybe sometimes a little bit pricey, but their stuff, it can be a hit and a miss. Carnmore for sure. I mean, what they've been releasing recently has just been on fire, and yeah, Drammore as well. They're quite good. Yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
You see, it's funny because I think everybody has their favourites, and like I still Douglas Lang set me down the independent bottlers lane. You know, that was, and it's just where I've always tend to go back to Douglas Lang. I think there's a great future coming up for Nabraran.
Yeah,
The two guys, you know,
it's a great idea.
Yeah, and it's lovely to see somebody still coming up with new ideas, in that world, because you sort of think to yourself, "Well, how many people out there now own casks that are just then daily becoming independent bottlers?" And
Yeah.
because yet again, that's the way. And I'm going to have another rip at Irish whiskey, but I know this bores you, mate. Sorry, but
No, no, no,
but
no, mum.
uh, but I actually look at these Irish distillers that are putting out other people's whiskies and charging an awful lot of money for them under their name as just independent bottlers. Really, I mean that's that they've taken somebody else's spirit or bought a cask off them, nurtured
Yeah.
it for a few years, and then sold it under their name. So they're not, to me, they're no different from an independent bottlers.
So, because I don't really know too much about Irish whiskey in general, really, but then do these guys still have like distilleries, like stills and everything?
You see, they're just young, you know.
Right,
Uh, somebody wants to, I was chatting to somebody one night, and as he described it, the best, and I thought it was a very good way to describe it, was they're still in puberty.
right,
So there could be greatness, but it's the fact that they've to break into the world of whiskey, the distilleries being built, etc. They've bought casks off somebody, and they're putting that out as their whiskey, while the distillery's still sitting on their own spirit,
right.
because they're waiting that 3 years. And this is something that I always give new Scottish distilleries. I've yet, well, sorry, I haven't. Who was it that was releasing somebody else's? There was one of the distilleries there recently was releasing somebody else's while they were working on their own. Was it? Oh, who was it? It was one of the island distilleries, I think. And but very, very rarely, most of these, like your Daft Mill, etc., all those that mentioned earlier on, wait,
Yeah,
and they just wait. That was Rassay.
yeah,
Yeah, that's who it was. It was the While You Wait, wasn't it? And I just love the fact that these Scottish distilleries, they say you wait, and you wait
yeah.
for it,
I
and
mean, yeah. Looking at Daft Mill as an exception almost. I mean, like I said, I'm in love with him. I'm in love with the distillery. Sorry. Obviously, he's got his farm. He's making money, but he had the maybe not the luxury, but the time to wait 12 years, 11 years to bring out his first product. And someone did mention that in the chat, where like you're saying, the other distilleries are having to wait 3 years. Um, but I mean, that's maybe why his whiskey's doing so well, or whatever, and why he can charge that price, because it is older, although it's still new whiskey. If that
mhm.
makes sense.
Oh, I know
Um,
what you mean.
sorry, someone was asking about AD Rattray.
Mhm.
Asked Stuart about, yeah, AD Rattay's, they bottle good stuff. So there's a Delphi. Yeah, I love independent ballers. I just love whiskey.
Yeah, so do I. And I mean, even some of the funny, because James Morgan there's shouting at Berry Brothers and Rudd, uh, Daniel Vermaas, getting back to what we were saying about the Irish, and he said about Teeling. Teeling were a prime example of a distillery bottling, but technically they weren't bottling other people's whiskey. This was because Teeling came from Cooley.
Right.
Anyway, technically it was still a whiskey that they would have been just developing rather than now. I'm not backing them up by any means, and as Frank says, the bleach sipper, because I recently talked about a tailing and compared it to bleach, but oh, it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't great. But you see, yet again, I'm felt that yet again, this is why I enjoy these chats, because somebody will, in Scotland they wouldn't be allowed to do what the Irish guys are doing due to labelling laws. There you are, sort of.
Yeah.
So this is the thing, that these laws are there, and this is, I didn't take that into account, that they wouldn't be firing out gin and other people's whiskey for
Yeah.
3 years.
No. I've got a question for you then. Since we're on the topic, prices. Let's go really negative. let's
You mean we
be
haven't been being negative?
let's be pessimistic for once. What is the maybe not regrettable, but what is the worst whiskey you've bought with regards to, say, price wise, like most expensive worst whiskey you've had or bought? Yeah, say bought.
The Daluaine Single Cask.
Yeah,
That one that I compared to bleach.
yeah,
I mean, it was €100, and it wasn't even the fact that it was €100. It was more. I look at these ones from the point of view, and Bushmills, 12-year-old distillery, whatever they named it, and it's the fact that I think to myself, if I was a tourist, if I came here on holiday from America, Australia, anywhere else in the world, pardon me, I went to the
sorry.
Daluaine distillery and paid €100 to bottle my own and came away with that, I'd be sorely disappointed. And I just think it reflects very badly on these distilleries. Now, I'm only looking at this as a whiskey drinker, as somebody that buys whiskey.
Yeah.
But if you're a tourist, most of them will just go, "Oh, isn't it great stuff?" You know, it's
Yeah, I suppose there'd be a lot of sentiment behind going to the distillery, visiting the distillery, and then memories, and then you might prefer the whiskey, although it's not the whiskey you're enjoying, it's more the memories and the sentiment behind it. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, if
sorry,
you're doing it as a whiskey drinker.
Yeah, and you see, before we go any further, because I'm going to get you to fire yours out in a minute, although there might be a Dalmore in it. But what I'm gonna do is, just because they've already started doing it, but anybody else that wishes to pitch in here in the chat and tell us what for the money was your most regrettable. Drew from AZ, sorry, Glendronach 21-year-old. But Drew, say I've just finished that 18. Very, very pleased with that. But that means nothing, because Phil for Causeway Coast, Lefroy 15, and the Redbreast Dreamcast 20 at €380. I remember Phil not being very pleased with that one.
No, I wouldn't be either.
But it's one of the Malt Review, the Waterford Bally something 1.1. It's not great, and I know the one you mean. It's not great. So, Stuart, hit us
You don't
with
even
it.
have to ask.
Is it the
Yeah, I think
is it the Dalmore?
yeah, it probably has to be the Daluaine King Alexander. I think I can't remember what I paid. I think it was definitely got an auction, and it might have been 150, it might have been 135, it might have been 115. But either of those prices are absolutely terrible for what I got. And yeah, the Glenmorangie Signet, it's a nice whiskey, it's enjoyable. It's an aperitif. I'd expect to see that in the supermarket next to something like Bailey's. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's good, but it's not a whiskey that's befitting a £115 price tag. It's the box you're paying for. It's the bottle you're paying for. But yeah, definitely those hurt me, and they still do to this day.
Well, here's a few more coming in. I'm sure I missed a few there, but Whiskey Graham, I missed you earlier on, mate. Hello, Old Fitzgerald 15 means nothing to Stuart Rye, but I know it's a bourbon. It's a bourbon, but there you are now. But there was a few coming in there, and I think I missed them.
Yeah, we got Indy Ingot saying Dalmore King Alexander tastes like watered down juice. Yes, and yeah, just a mix of everything. I mean, it's just watery.
Oh, man. Did you see that? Sorry, Scotch Whisky Association just banned a blind tasting in Europe because the drams were split.
Madness.
That is madness, isn't it? It's people taking the ball and running with it.
Technicality.
Yeah, it's and there's too much of that, and it's something that I generally like. about Scotch whiskey and the rulings and laws behind it, that to me they take a relatively not relaxed. I don't think anybody would think for 1 second that they take a relaxed view on it, but their restrictions fit a box. I think that'll be the best way to explain it. That keep things tight, keep it, Whereas I don't even know where I'm going with this. I honestly had an idea in my head a minute ago that I thought was very good, but it's
Fine.
whenever you see things like that. That's what I meant. That they just go, as I say,
Take
it's
it too
quite,
far.
they take it too far, and they've put themselves up on a pedestal. And sorry,
That's all right. But just pouring a little Tullabarden 14-year-old. Quite enjoy what comes with Tullabarden, really,
I
in
was just about to
general.
say you like your Tullabarden, don't you?
Yeah, I quite like it. I think they're doing all right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Whiskey Broker one, 56.8%, and I think it was £60. Probably one of the best £60 I've spent. I really enjoy it. I think it's worth every penny. If not, they could have charged £80, and I still would be happy with it. But for a 14-year-old and non-chill filtered, no added colour, and £60, I think that's magnificent.
Yeah, happy days. Yep. Sorry, Sam Clark sounded Blue Label. Obviously, Johnny Walker. Tenor a dram. Tenor a dram's probably not bad for Blue Label. Yeah, look at the
Sorry,
colour
I
of
was
that.
just showing the colour. It is first fill sherry, but the sherry's not overpowering at all. I mean, some whiskies like I think Malt said it, the Kilkerran, the distillate doesn't really need sherry. It's fine in bourbon. Same with Daft Mill. I think it's delicate enough just to have bourbon, and it doesn't really need sherry. And this is just kind of the opposite. The sherry just goes so well with it.
I'm going to say it before. Well, Menno's maybe left, but Menno would just say that's cola.
I'll get a sample of this over to you.
Oh, no worries. Cheers, buddy.
I've got stuff to send you.
Speaking of samples, I'm now on to this Daluaine 12-year-old from the Single Cask, which who sent me this? Billy
Oh,
Saunders.
you're good.
Yes, I was chatting to Billy Saunders earlier on. I did actually have I'm sure I've got a picture of this somewhere. Anyway, we all know the bottles, that little square bottle from the Single Cask.
Yeah, they're a good independent bottler. Well, they're okay. The prices are sometimes a little bit unjustified, maybe because of the bottle. Maybe I think they hail from London, but yeah, their whiskey tends that's a hit and a miss at times. I mean, I've had a few that have been brilliant. I've had a few that have been rather lacking, but
Yeah, no, it's weird this, because this is incredible. I've never had Daluaine.
it's a good distillery.
It's weirdly light on the nose. Now this is bottled at 58.7%, which you would struggle to find now. No water or anything in it,
Yeah,
but I would really struggle to find.
sessionable, is it?
Yeah, it's very much. It's all on the palate.
Yeah.
It's actually a sort of light cheesy note on the nose.
Sorry, Jeff Whiskey is just saying crazy where you see people more at auction. So people pay more, I assume, when they can buy cheaper and stock from shops. Yeah. I think I seen that with the Macallan Estate. Came out for like 200 or 195 pound. It was on the auction same month when it came out for like 400 pound. Yeah, it was still in the shops for 100 pound.
Yeah.
And it's just that how I don't know where the reasoning comes in behind these type of things, where you can see it on the auction. It blows my mind.
Here, you're gonna love this, Stuart. I don't know if you're reading this, right? Anyway, Peter Morris. So far, Peter, this is very much my first go at Daluaine myself, and strangely thin nose, but lovely palate. Goes a bit dry, but no, very good. Malty. Lunara loves it. Petehead loves it. Cheesy Watsits. And there you are. This is what I want to throw up to you, because we were just discussing earlier on.
Well, Mark's a very distinguished designer and has quite an artistic mind. So he's probably right. I mean, I love the look of them, but he's right. I'll take his word for it. He hates the look of them, so they must be crap. So I'm wrong. No, but yeah, I see that's the thing. I think they look class. They're small enough to fit in my smallest of shelves, so I can get enough of them in.
They're all 500s, are they?
No, they're 700. They're still
Oh, they're all
700.
700. Yeah.
But I just think they look different to most things, other than is it Bladnoch that have a kind of squarish bottle. So I just think they stand out a little. But
you see, this I agree with you. Bottles don't mean an awful lot to me generally. You know, they're a vessel, is the way I look at it.
yeah, that's it.
But
yeah.
every now and again, now Phil, really, there's no need for that sort of language. Every now and again, there's one. I mean, I spoke about the 1792 bourbon bottle. I just think it's a lovely looking bottle. My good wife bought me a bottle of Method and Madness single grain for Valentine's Day, and it's just one of those random. Even she said that she thought the bottle was a bit. I don't want to use the words that she used, but I had to disagree. I think, you know, every now and again, nice shaped bottle sets off your cabinet.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, if everything looked the same, it would be boring. But I mean, like I keep going back to like the whiskey broker. There's nothing to that label. It just says whiskey broker, and it gives you all the details you need. But then you get things like this bad boy, which I mean, it doesn't. It gives you a lot of details. It tells you the age roughly. Tells you the ABV. It tells you the number of bottles. It doesn't tell you it was matured in. So not a lot of details compared to the other one. But I bought it for the label because that label's kick ass, and luckily the whiskey's all right. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you got to look at something pretty.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and it's funny
at times.
It's weird because when you get into, and I would dare say we're probably all the same, when you get into whiskey at first, you do look at the color and think, you know, the browner that, and I'm not going to go back to the King Alexander again, but you know what I mean. And
yeah.
You think that should be the color. You think a bottle should be a specific shape. You think a label should be.
Yeah, I mean, mate, a stag on a bottle, colouring, nice, lovely cardboard box that opens up. That's got to be a good whiskey.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's very lacking, and I suppose that's where it's just experience and time, and no one's going to get it right first time. And I wish we all could, but you're never going to get it right first time. It's just trial and error, really, and knowing which companies to try and put your trust in.
Yeah, agreed. Sorry, I missed a question from Stefan Novak there earlier. Now, having never had Daluaine before, Stefan, I'm going to tell you that personally, I wouldn't, until you suggested waxy, it wouldn't have entered my mind, but it is. It is slightly waxy, but it's also slightly nutty. So it's not just one of them.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for the Daluaine Spirit. I've had a few now. It's the same with Ben Rinnes. I think they're quite robust. It's the same with Blair Ethel. It's the same with a lot of these Diageo and distilleries. They're obviously going to blends for good reason. They're good, robust whiskies, I think, distillates. And on their own, they work really well. And bourbon, for me, predominantly most of these. But I've yet to have a few in sherry. But yeah, it'd be good to see them release official bottlings because I think they've got a lot of potential. But then with Diageo, just chill filter them and add water. I don't
know. Yes, agreed, mate. And sorry, I just seen this. Yes, Peter, waxy like Clynelish, and it has got that sort of Clynelish feel to the back of it, although it's an awful lot more sturdy.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of love for the ramen bottles. I've now got the two Campbelltown blends, and I bought the Glen Murray off the auction, which has a cat and ramen off it. I just love the Phil Thompson, the Thompson Bros Donnock Distillery bottles. I think they look so cool. They're awesome. Stuart sounds as bad as Rover does about bourbon. Yeah.
Sorry, I just seen one from Luna. Luna, I don't have her address in the Republic of Ireland. Sorry, but
All I've got to say is Phil is I'm drinking sherry now, so I'm loving it. Having the time of my life here. Yeah, it's definitely a good topic to bring up, and I'm glad I was part of it with the pricing, because I think sometimes we do just need to put a foot down. It's hard with FOMO and all that, but I honestly cannot believe, and I'm fuming that people bought that hard big. People are always going to buy it, and I don't know why it annoyed me so much. But just after they released the £750 25-year-old, and then this non-age statement for £150, it really got me riled up. It's just like, why? Like, what? Why? You've got too much money.
No, I totally agree with you, mate. It's I don't know. I don't know where this doesn't help. Put it like that. And that, as we were discussing with the bubble, etc., and when the bubble will burst, it doesn't help that the prices keep getting pushed up. I know there's been an awful lot of chat about this recently. Through Roy did it last week. Ralphie's always doing it. I was actually called. I can't even remember who did it. I think it was a family member, so they'll be forgiven. But somebody said, "Are you to be considered an influencer then, Jim?" And I'd never thought about it before. I'd never really, I don't think I don't like to think I influence anybody to do anything like. But I mean, but I suppose to some we are. But I don't think personally we would be driving whiskey prices up.
I don't think we should have too much effect on it. Some people might say like Roy and Ralphie, but then at the same time, I think I've said it before, and just a little rant it's Instagram and social media in general. I don't think people are giving enough honest reviews. They're not actually giving any opinion. They're just saying this whiskey tastes like hugging a big fluffy teddy bear. But do you like it? Yeah, obviously you should like it, but then it's just so general and so vague that you don't really get any information from it to say that, oh, well, I like that, well, or not. It's just, I don't know. And I think that doesn't help. And I think obviously I think that's how it's getting more influenced, is through the Instagram side of things for me. I don't know. I don't think YouTube, I think with YouTubers, the majority of us are a lot more honest. And maybe I've just dug another hole there and called every Instagram user that.
You sort of, no, I think you actually hit the nail on the head, in fairness.
I don't know.
Because
maybe just too many of us.
No, well, actually, somebody else mentioned something earlier, fairly recently there, about Instagram. Somebody said something about Instagram, and it's weird because you wouldn't hear about a lot of these things if it wasn't for social media. You wouldn't hear about these releases. You wouldn't know where the crowd is heading if it wasn't for social media.
Yeah.
And it then leads, not only does it, like I used to follow Instagram in particular at the start when the Whiskey Novice was born, and a day didn't go by that I didn't just spend my time on Instagram watching what everybody was doing, and I find myself then having to step back and go, that's best not to, because this is steering you then and going like, well, I didn't want to buy that, but now there's everybody else is buying it, so it must be really good. So maybe we'll buy it, and all,
I went on a purge through mine because of the amount of people that I realised I was following that were giving reviews, and they're posting a picture of a bottle not even opened, and I'm thinking, well, how are you reviewing it and stuff like that? But sorry, Alan said there, the whiskey friend, how much influence you think Roy had on Glentour at 12? I'd never seen Glentour at 12 or heard anything about it until it came up on Roy's, and then I've seen it everywhere. So there's definitely influence there, but I'm hoping I'm not doing too much. And you're probably doing more.
No, because and James Morgan said it. The Deacon of
Yeah,
Deanston. Deanston was another one that came up. Glencadam. You know, Glencadam was just something that hung around on the peripheral, wasn't it? And then you know, Glencadam became a thing again all of a sudden, and it's no bad thing. Yet again, they keep their prices right, and it is a good whiskey. So I don't think it does any harm to promote them,
yeah,
as long as the distillery doesn't then just take this as an excuse to hike their prices.
yeah.
You know what I'm
No, I
saying?
agree. I agree. We've had loads of chats, and I've had loads of chats with other whiskey YouTubers and that, talking about taking samples and speaking about the distillery and that, whether it's good or bad and that. And I don't know. It's just it's hard sometimes. It's hard to know what the right thing to do is for like
Mm-hmm.
consumers, because I don't want to try and lead anyone astray. Um, Especially saying something's good and then someone's like, "Oh no, I hated it." But it's hard because and everybody's entitled to their own opinion and stuff as well.
It's something that yet again we need to be very very careful with reviewing whiskey at all, don't we? You know, it's only an opinion,
Mm.
isn't it?
But my
It
opinion's right all the time. That's just what I'm trying to say.
yeah, you know, whatever. Like, but but no, definitely. I think it's something that. Well, what can you do? I mean, we're only given our version of it. We're only given our
Yeah,
if I won't even. I've got to the point where you and I were talking about something else earlier, and about how during the last year things have changed a bit, and there's an awful lot more content and all going out there, and that does. Roy's mentioned this. He's talked about it. I know he has. Ralphie's talked about it. He's mentioned it. It does drive prices.
yeah,
There's no denying that. Uh, it, I think at the end of the day, it all boils down to us as the people that are buying it, doesn't it?
that's it.
Doesn't
Yeah,
matter, doesn't matter what anybody thinks. If we weren't buying the stuff, the prices wouldn't go up.
that's it. As long as we all just stand against flippers.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Um,
Totally agree.
a whiskey bond. Sorry, just to hijack, but he said distill in general is obviously a bit overpriced. Nothing between their entry level and anything else. That yeah, distill. I don't know what. I mean, other than they have been a having, don't they? They've been a having 12-year-old and 18-year-old. I think are well priced, but
Mhm.
yeah, with Deanston and Tobermory, what they've been charging recently, it just seems to be absolutely ludicrous. I think they had what was it, their Tobermory 25-year-old or 23-year-old on site for like £300 and they had to keep reducing it and reducing it. And you just think, well, that's your own fault, isn't it? Like, why are you
It's
charging so
weird.
much?
They're almost taking I'd almost look at it as an Irish view on it, and there's an
Yeah,
awful lot of not even just that, but Phil Causeway Coast said it a while ago. If you look at the amount of finishes that Deanston are now putting out, and it's another finish every week, almost, and it's
yeah, they've hit
yeah,
the nail on the head. That's a
yeah,
nail on the
that's
head.
I didn't want to say
It,
it.
it's the exact same with Wolfburn. I mean, they've been initially they were bringing out so many things, so many exclusives, and they were all just rather average. And I've still not found a Wolfburn that I've said, "Oh, do you know what? This is a good whiskey." Um, yeah, it just you obviously can't bring out too much at once.
Well, this is always my rant about Irish whiskey. There's not enough of them have
Character,
developed. Yeah, they haven't developed a strong enough single malt to hang their hat on and say, look, we've got something good here, and then, but they're just firing out finishes, and it's like, establish. My cry is always establish yourself first, and then develop later.
yeah. I mean, I'll go back to the Ardbeg 10, like brilliant core range whiskey. So they've managed to build themselves up on that, and unfortunately go off a bit of a deep end. But yeah, you got to put your core range whiskey out first and build your audience up, build your fan base up, and then bring out the crap that you can sell in a fancy box.
Yeah, 100%.
You can't just bring your crap out straight away.
No, no, definitely not. Right, listen. I'm gonna. Stuart and I both have an early start tomorrow morning, and I even lost focus there. That's like,
that's how tired you are.
That's how tired I went fuzzy for a second.
Yeah, I had my glasses on before, and I thought, no, I'll look a bit more presentable. I'll go put my contacts in, and my eyes are just dry as hell now. So tired.
Listen, Stuart, I appreciate it as always, mate. It's been a while since we spoke, and it's been good to have you on again.
Mate, it's been great to see you. Good to speak to you in person.
As always, I don't think we solved anything there or really got to any points. It's just, you know.
I mean, you've probably done well and better for yourself. I've probably just dug myself a hole, lost a couple subscribers, insulted someone somewhere.
No. No, nobody was listening to you.
No, can't understand me.
But no, listen, it was a genuine pleasure, and I'll. Funny, Luna, just some before I get off the subject, Luna was saying about it being hard to post in the UK. I have samples to send out to so many people, and you're on that list.
And
I've just been scared to send anything at the minute because of what's going on here in particular. Maybe not so bad with you posting out or people posting into you or anybody in the south of Ireland posting out and posting in. But just here, I'm really scared to post to anybody because I'm scared of going missing, you know.
Yeah.
But
it's tough.
I'm gonna take the chance. And as I say, anybody that I had promised samples to, you'll probably know who you are. I will be getting them. Yeah, yourself included. They'll be getting posted at the end of the month whenever I get paid again. But listen, outside of that, Stuart. Yes, thanks, buddy. And you know, stay in touch. There's
definitely,
you know that anyway. Look after yourself and cheers. Yes, it's great to have Stuart. And again, I haven't actually had Stuart on in so long, and it's been really good to have him. And as I say, these things, whiskey pricing, it's just a vague title because. You know, most of you have been in here before. And if I've missed you in the chat and I didn't say hello, I really do apologize. But it's always a vague title and just it's a chit chat, isn't it? I'll be back sometime in March and I have somebody else lined up. Somebody hopefully this time from within the industry. And I look forward to it. It'll be interesting. Until then, thank you very, very much for joining me once again. It's been an absolute pleasure. I didn't really get totally into this Daluaine that Billy Saunders sent me, but I'm really, really enjoying it. And a drop of water has actually made that nose open up and made the palate even sweeter, waxier, slightly less nutty, Stefan. But very, very nice. Listen, until the next time, here's to your good health. Cheers.